The morning of March 15th began like any other Tuesday in Washington, D.C. But by 10:47 a.m., everything had shifted. White House Press Secretary Caroline Levit believed she had found the perfect opportunity to raise her profile and prove to Trump's base that she could take down the progressive left. Her chosen target, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, widely known for her fiery speeches and firm commitment to social justice. What Levit didn't anticipate was that her carefully planned attack would collapse so completely that, within hours, she became the subject of ridicule on Twitter, while Crockett emerged as the day's hero with a single viral response that changed the narrative. It all began with a leaked audio recording from a private fundraiser where Crockett had sharply criticized Trump's policies. Levit saw this as her chance to launch what she thought would be a career-defining blow. She had been riding high since her widely praised clash with Robert Darrow, and her confidence had turned into overconfidence. This time, however, she had chosen the wrong opponent. That morning, the 27-year-old press secretary sat in her West Wing office, scrolling through potential subjects for her next viral confrontation. Having built her reputation on direct challenges, she knew conservative media was eager for her next move. When staff presented her with the Crockett recording, she smiled. To her, it seemed simple, a young progressive making strong statements. Perfect material to weaponize. But what followed stunned political Twitter and revealed why Jasmine Crockett should never be underestimated. At 43, the former civil rights attorney was about to show Levit the importance of preparation, precision, and the power of evidence in political battles. Before we go further, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss important political stories shaping America today. What happens next is one of the sharpest political clashes of 2025. What began as a routine attack would evolve into a lesson in political strategy. To understand its significance, you need to know who these two women are and why their confrontation seemed inevitable. Caroline Levit had been on a rapid rise, becoming the youngest White House press secretary in history at 27, boosted by her viral takedown of Robert Darrow on Fox News. Overnight, she became a recognizable MAGA figure. Conservative. Outlets embraced her quick wit and bold tone. She amassed more than 800,000 Twitter followers, appeared regularly on Fox, and enjoyed Trump's full backing. The momentum was intoxicating. Interview requests, speaking invitations, and constant praise from conservative commentators. She was featured on magazine covers with headlines like "The Gen Z Voice of Trump's America" and "The Press Secretary Who Fights Back." Republican strategists even discussed her future as a Senate candidate, or something greater. Raised in a working-class New Hampshire family, Levit had steadily climbed the ranks of Republican politics. She was intelligent, ambitious, and skilled at turning criticism into opportunity. Her Catholic faith and loyalty to Trump made her a favorite among conservative voters. She had successfully faced down celebrities, seasoned reporters, and veteran politicians alike. But her growing success had a downside. Confidence often blurred into arrogance. After months of victories, she began believing her own hype. She felt untouchable. Jasmine Crockett, by contrast, was a completely different kind. A figure, the Texas Congresswoman had built her reputation as one of the most determined fighters in the Democratic Party. A former civil rights attorney, she had unseated a longtime incumbent in a primary that shocked the establishment. Crockett wasn't just a progressive politician repeating talking points. She had lived the struggles she spoke about, growing up in St. Louis. She had worked as a public defender for clients who couldn't afford legal help, fought housing discrimination cases, and challenged corrupt police departments. In Congress, she quickly stood out with her sharp legal skills and powerful questioning in hearings. She had reduced Trump officials to silence, exposed corporate misconduct, and wasn't afraid to highlight hypocrisy wherever she saw it. Her Twitter following exceeded 1.2 million, with supporters drawn to her blunt, fact-driven style. What made Crockett particularly formidable was her ability to remain calm under pressure while landing decisive blows. She knew as a lawyer that the most effective strategy was to let opponents think they were ahead, then dismantle them with undeniable facts. The stakes for this confrontation were high. For Levit, it was about proving she could take down a rising Democratic voice and solidify her place as Trump's most visible defender. Success promised more media exposure and a stronger political future. For Crockett, it was about defending her record, protecting progressive ideals, and showing that no one, not even a White House press secretary, could intimidate her. This was not just a personal clash. It reflected the direction of American politics itself. Would Trump-style confrontation remain dominant? Or would Democrats like Crockett, armed with preparation and discipline, chart another path forward? At 8:30 a.m., the spark was lit. A conservative blogger published audio from a Democratic fundraiser held 3 weeks earlier in Austin. On the recording, Crockett criticized Trump's immigration policies. "These policies aren't just cruel, they're designed to create fear," she said. "When you separate families and place children in cages, you're not securing the border. You're traumatizing an entire generation. Anyone defending this is complicit in that trauma." The recording had circulated quietly for weeks, but that Tuesday it caught Levit's attention. While reviewing her daily briefing materials, her deputy chief of staff flagged the remarks. "This could be our opening," he suggested. "She's basically accusing supporters of border security of enabling child abuse. We can frame this as her attacking families who simply want safe communities." Levit's eyes lit up. She had been waiting for a chance to challenge Crockett, who had recently gained attention after grilling a Trump cabinet nominee during a hearing. Conservative media figures had been demanding someone take her down, and Levit saw the opportunity. "Perfect," she said. "We'll make this about her extreme rhetoric and how out of touch she is with ordinary Americans." By 10:15 a.m., Levit launched her offensive. She began with a Twitter thread that quickly escalated. Breaking: audio surfaces of Jasmine. Crockett calling millions of Americans complicit in child abuse for wanting secure borders. This is the radical left exposed, attacking hardworking families who believe in law and order. Crockett thinks anyone who disagrees with her open border agenda is a child abuser. This is the same person who wants to defund the police and empty our prisons. Texas families deserve better than this extremist voice. While Americans face crime and economic struggles, Jasmine Crockett prefers insults and division. She owes Border Patrol agents and ICE officers an apology for these shameful remarks. The tweets gained traction immediately. Conservative accounts amplified them. Fox News producers contacted Levit's team, and the hashtag #CrockettExtremist began trending. MAGA influencers weighed in, with Steve Bannon's War Room covering it, Charlie Kirk tweeting his support, and Donald Trump Jr. boosting the posts to millions of followers. The conservative media ecosystem did exactly what Levit had planned, amplifying her message and turning it into a wider narrative. But she wasn't finished. At 10:47 a.m., she posted what she thought would be the knockout punch. Maybe Jasmine Crockett should spend less time attacking American families and more time explaining why her district has some of the highest crime rates in Texas. Actions have consequences, and her radical rhetoric is putting communities at risk. Time for accountability. This post was different. It wasn't just political disagreement. It was personal. Levit was questioning Crockett's effectiveness as a representative and making claims about her district that were open to verification. She also suggested Crockett's words were tied to local crime levels. Political Twitter sensed the shift immediately. Conservative accounts piled on with replies and quote tweets. Liberals defended Crockett but appeared reactive instead of driving the conversation. At 11:15 a.m., Fox News host Brian Kilmeade mentioned the controversy on air. "We're seeing reports that Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was caught on audio making extreme statements about border security. Our own Caroline Levit has been highlighting the story online. We'll be following this throughout the day." That brief mention pushed the story into overdrive. More outlets picked it up. Breitbart ran, "Texas Democrat calls border security. Supporters complicit in child abuse," while the Daily Wire published, "Jasmine Crockett's latest attack on American families exposed." By noon, Levit was celebrating. Her phone buzzed with interview requests. Conservative accounts were praising her. Trump allies reached out with encouragement. One text from inside Trump's circle read simply, "Great work. Keep it up." But her victory lap overlooked one crucial detail. She had made a serious research mistake, and Jasmine Crockett was about to expose it in the most public way possible. While Levit enjoyed her moment, Crockett was in her congressional office preparing a careful response. She knew from experience that the first rule of any fight is to let your opponent finish before countering. She wanted to see how far Levit would go, how many claims she would make before striking back. Each tweet was another piece of evidence. At 12:30 p.m., her chief of staff rushed in, clearly uneasy. "Congresswoman, this is heating up. CNN wants a statement. MSNBC is asking for an interview. The Congressional Black Caucus wants to coordinate. How do you want to handle this?" Crockett, seated at her laptop, was calmly fact-checking every claim Levit had posted. Her legal instincts had taken over. She was building a case, assembling evidence, and preparing to deliver a verdict, not in a courtroom, but in the court of public opinion. Reviewing her notes with a slight smile, she replied quietly but firmly, "Don't worry, I've got this and I've got receipts." What followed would soon be remembered as a political masterclass. At 1:23 p.m., while Levit was giving a podcast interview about her successful takedown of Crockett, the Congresswoman posted her response. For the past hour, she had been doing something Levit had clearly skipped: research. And what she uncovered flipped the narrative entirely. First, Crockett confirmed that Levit's claim about her district's crime rates was false. FBI statistics showed her district was below the state average, with several areas experiencing declines in violent crime over the past 2 years. But the real blow came when Crockett pulled data from New Hampshire's 1st congressional district, Levit's home turf, and the seat she once ran for. The numbers showed that towns in Levit's former district had crime rates higher than anywhere in Crockett's Texas district, including steep rises in domestic violence and drug-related offenses during Levit's 2022 campaign. Crockett dug deeper. She unearthed transcripts from Levit's 2022 campaign against Democrat Chris Pappas. In one debate, Levit had said, "We need to address the root causes of crime. That means tackling poverty, addiction, and family breakdown. We can't just arrest our way out of these problems." It was nearly identical to the policy arguments Crockett herself had been making, and it contradicted the law and order rhetoric Levit was now pushing as press secretary. Even more damaging, Crockett found a 2022 local newspaper interview where Levit had criticized harsh immigration enforcement. "Separating families should be a last resort. We need humane policies that recognize the dignity of every person, especially children." Armed with the evidence, Crockett posted her first counterpunch at 1:23 p.m. Interesting that a Cleveland NH wants to lecture me about crime when her hometown of Hampton, NH, saw a 47% rise in domestic violence during her failed congressional campaign. Maybe fix the problems at home before coming for my record. The impact was immediate. Twitter lit up. Within minutes, her post was being shared across the platform. 2 minutes later, she followed up with the knockout. "Also found this gem. From Caroline Levit NH's 2022 campaign. Separating families should be a last resort. We need humane policies that recognize the dignity of every person, especially children. Funny how positions change when Trump's approval is on the line. Receipts matter. The second tweet included a screenshot of the interview. The hypocrisy was undeniable, and political Twitter erupted. Supporters reposted with receipts and fire emojis. Fact-checkers confirmed Crockett's claims within the hour. Washington Post's Glenn Kessler tweeted, "Checking the data. Crockett is correct. Her district's crime rates are below the state average, while Levit's old district saw increases." CNN's Jim Acosta added, "This is what research looks like, bringing receipts to a Twitter fight." Even Fox News hosts were careful, with Brett Baier noting, "We're seeing back and forth on crime stats and past statements. Viewers should verify claims independently." By 2 p.m., Levit's team was in crisis. Her communications staff scrambled for a defense, but the facts were irrefutable. The crime data was public. The quotes were on record. The story was slipping away. At 2:15 p.m., Levit tried to recover. "My record speaks for itself. I've fought for American families my entire career and won't be distracted by partisan attacks or cherry-picked statistics. The public sees through these attempts to shift the conversation." The pushback fell flat. Critics mocked her for calling FBI data cherry-picked and dismissing her own past statements as partisan spin. Fact-checkers flagged her post with a community note clarifying that Crockett's claims were accurate and sourced. Then, at 2:45 p.m., Crockett delivered the finishing blow. "When you come for someone, do your homework. I'm a civil rights attorney who spent years studying crime data and policy. Next time, fact-check before you attack. Texas taught me, if you're going to fight, come prepared." The tweet struck the perfect balance, direct but not overblown, factual but memorable. It highlighted Crockett's expertise while underscoring Levit's mistakes. In less than 2 hours, the dynamic had flipped. Cable news began shifting. Coverage. Instead of focusing on Crockett's fundraiser comments, outlets were dissecting Levit's failed research and public contradictions. By 3 p.m., Levit hypocrisy was trending alongside our receipts matter. Social media was flooded with memes showing Crockett as a lawyer presenting evidence while Levit appeared unprepared. The most popular meme depicted a courtroom scene captioned, "When you attack a lawyer without checking your facts." Conservative outlets faced a dilemma. They could neither defend Levit's inaccurate crime statistics nor explain away her prior support for humane immigration measures. Some stopped covering the story altogether, while others shifted focus to unrelated criticisms of Crockett. Inside the White House, frustration was high. Reports indicated an emergency meeting was called in the West Wing to discuss damage control. Levit's effectiveness as press secretary was suddenly questioned. How could she continue to attack Democrats after such a public setback? By 4 p.m., late-night comedy writers were already drafting jokes. Stephen Colbert's team teased their segment with the line, "What happens when you bring a Twitter tantrum to a lawyer fight?" In under 3 hours, Crockett had transformed what seemed like a liability into an example of sharp political counterpunching. For Levit, it was a reminder that in the social media era, receipts matter more than rhetoric. The fallout was immediate. By 5 p.m., political observers noted they hadn't seen a narrative flip this quickly in years. News outlets scrambled to revise coverage. CNN abandoned its planned piece on Crockett's fundraiser comments. Instead, Anderson Cooper opened his 80 p.m. broadcast by stating, "Tonight we start with a reminder of why politicians should fact-check before they attack." MSNBC went further. Rachel Maddow dedicated a full segment to what she called the anatomy of a failed political attack. She walked through Levit's tweets and Crockett's methodical rebuttals. Maddow explained, Crockett didn't just defend herself, she showed a masterclass in political communication. Even Fox News, which had originally amplified Levit's claims, pulled back. While avoiding direct criticism of Levit, they quietly stopped promoting the story. Tucker Carlson, who had planned to discuss Crockett's rhetoric, switched to unrelated topics. For the rest of the week, receipts matter and Levit hypocrisy dominated online discussions. But the conversation grew beyond the single clash. Political strategists began citing the exchange as a case study. Democratic consultant James Carville tweeted, "This is how you fight back. Don't whine, don't deflect. Bring facts and make them look foolish. Crockett just wrote the playbook." Republican strategist Sarah Chamberlain added, "Disagree with her politics, but Crockett just proved you need your facts straight before launching attacks." The memes kept coming. One showed Crockett as a chess master captioned, "When you're 3 moves ahead." Another depicted her in court with evidence folders labeled crime stats, old quotes, and basic research. The most viral meme illustrated Levit attacking while Crockett calmly blocked with a shield labeled facts. Behind the scenes, tensions rose in the Trump administration. Sources claimed Trump was angry with Levit's handling of the situation, reportedly saying, "How do you not check the numbers before attacking? She made us look weak." The White House initially attempted to distance itself, insisting the tweets reflected Levit's personal views. That argument collapsed when reporters noted she had posted them during office hours in her role as press secretary. By Wednesday morning, Levit had to face reporters directly. At the daily briefing, when pressed about her claims against Crockett, she doubled down. "I stand by my concerns about radical rhetoric from the left. My job is to represent the American people and the president's agenda." But when ABC's Jonathan Karl pointed out that Crockett had presented data disproving her claims, Levit deflected. "I'm not going to relitigate Twitter debates from this podium. Next question." The exchange went viral, with many noting the contrast between Levit's reputation for blunt confrontation and her unwillingness to address her own mistakes. Meanwhile, Crockett managed her rising profile with composure. On The View, she explained her strategy. "I'm a lawyer. In court, you can't make claims without proof. Politics should work the same way. If you attack my record, you'd better have facts." Asked about Levit personally, Crockett responded, "I have no personal issue with her. But if someone misrepresents my district, I will respond with the truth. That's what my constituents expect." The interview was widely praised for being professional and substantive, even by some conservative commentators. Crockett also used the moment to highlight real issues in her district, sharing crime reduction and economic growth data. On Twitter, she wrote, "If you're going to talk about my district, let's focus on the real story, how investment and smart policies are delivering results." The implications extended well beyond one online clash. Political scientists began treating it as a turning point in digital-era discourse. Georgetown professor Dr. Sarah Peterson wrote, "The Levit-Crockett exchange marks a new model for political response. Instead of emotion or deflection, we saw a fact-based counterattack. This may shift how politicians engage going forward." The episode also underscored how much political news now unfolds on social media, with mainstream outlets often reacting after the fact. Several newsrooms announced plans to improve monitoring of these fast-moving online battles. Within conservative circles, the fallout triggered debate. Some argued Levit's approach was reckless and poorly prepared, while others insisted the attack was justified but badly executed. But the problem was in the execution. Conservative commentator Ben Shapiro noted on his podcast, "If you're going to go after someone, you need to be fully prepared. You can't just toss out claims and hope they stick. That's not conservatism. It's carelessness." The debate exposed divisions inside the conservative movement over how best to challenge Democrats without falling into obvious traps. For Democrats, the episode was an unexpected gift. It showed how to counter attacks effectively while also raising Crockett's national profile. Democratic fundraising spiked, with many donors citing their admiration for her response. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries praised her publicly, saying, "Congresswoman Crockett demonstrated the leadership and intelligence Americans deserve. She proved that when you stand by facts and your constituents, the truth prevails." Perhaps the broader takeaway was about information battles in the digital age. The clash highlighted that, with instant fact-checking and wide access to data, politicians could no longer rely on unsupported accusations. Veteran strategist David Axelrod summed it up on Twitter. Jasmine Crockett's response should be, "Required reading for politicians. In the information age, bring receipts or don't bother." By week's end, both women were in very different places. Levit, who started the week as a rising conservative voice, was now fielding questions about her preparation and credibility. Her team was reportedly conducting a lessons-learned review to prevent repeat missteps. Crockett, meanwhile, had gone from being respected but relatively low profile to a nationally recognized Democratic figure. She was receiving speaking invitations from across the country. Progressive groups sought collaborations, and some began speculating about her future in party leadership. The incident also reshaped how politicians approached online conflict. Multiple congressional staffers revealed their bosses had instructed them to Crockett-proof attacks, meaning every claim had to be thoroughly fact-checked before posting. Ironically, Levit's attack achieved the opposite of its intended effect. Rather than weakening Crockett, it amplified her influence and visibility. Instead of projecting strength for the Trump administration, it drew attention to sloppy research and unsupported claims. As one Democratic strategist observed, "Caroline Levit just handed Jasmine Crockett the best promotion she could have asked for. Sometimes your opponents help you more than your allies." The incident also became a cultural touchstone. Late-night comedians mocked the story, but their jokes reflected deeper issues about research skills and digital literacy. Trevor Noah devoted a full segment to what he called the homework wars, noting, "You had a 27-year-old who thought she could wing it versus a 43-year-old lawyer trained to investigate. That's like bringing a Twitter rant to a Supreme Court argument." Teachers across the U.S. began using the exchange as a case study in media literacy classes, showing students how to verify claims and cross-check sources. Universities added it to political communication curricula as an example of fact-based rebuttal. Social media analysts noted that this was more than the usual cycle of outrage. For once, evidence-driven arguments outperformed emotional appeals. Dr. Jennifer Kim, a digital communications professor at Stanford, explained, "We're seeing a shift. Audiences are responding more to factual arguments than to pure rhetoric. This could be a turning point." The clash demonstrated that in today's politics, viral moments can change careers within hours, but it also showed that substance still matters. Well-researched, fact-based responses can cut through the noise and reshape narratives. The Caroline Levit versus Jasmine Crockett Twitter battle will likely be remembered as a milestone in political communication. It proved that in an era of endless information, failing to do your homework carries real risks. For Crockett, it became a career-defining moment, a textbook example of crisis communication done right. For Levit, it was a costly reminder of the need for preparation and the danger of relying on assumptions. Most importantly, it reassured Americans that some leaders still believe in careful research, fact-checking, and responding to criticism with substance rather than slogans. The story of how a single tweet altered two political careers continues to echo through Washington, underscoring a simple truth. In the digital era, facts travel faster than fiction, and politicians ignore that reality at their own risk. If you found this breakdown of one of the most striking political takedowns in recent memory useful, Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll keep analyzing major political battles and revealing what really happened behind the scenes. Tap the notification bell so you never miss when politicians discover the hard way that facts matter more than spin. And let us know in the comments. What other political showdowns should we cover next?